I hope everyone had their coffee already. Okay. I was a grade 3 teacher before, so before I always start a session, I will make sure that the energy is still high, especially it's already 3:30 in the afternoon. So just a quick question for everyone. By raise of hands, show how many of you have learned a new app or a new digital tool in the past week. Raise your hand. The past week, and any app, any digital tool or technology that you've learned this week. One. Okay, how about the past month? Okay, two. The past year. A new technology. Okay, I've actually just learned a new software, sharing software earlier before coming here. So, second question, how many of you actively seek products that minimize the harm to our environment? Like when you go to the grocery, you look at the products and see if it's like harming the environment. How many of you are actively seek that out? 1, 2, 3. 4. Admittedly, I still have to be mindful in terms of going to the grocery and buying products. Why am I asking these questions? Because this is exactly why we're here this afternoon. We want to learn how to pivot to digital skills, to green skills, especially in TVET systems. And this afternoon, we have a remarkable set of experts joining us. So we have limited time, so let's start. May I call on stage first Mr. Ubaidur Rahman, the Global Regional Youth Employment Advisor in Asia from Save the Children. Round of applause, everyone. Mr. Israruddin, the Director of Partnerships of the Tri-Hitakarana THK Forum, Partnership and Policy Lab at the United in Diversity, or UID Foundation. And of course, Dr. Margarita Pavlova, the Director of the Univox Center in Hong Kong, and an Associate Professor at the Department of International Education, the Education University of Hong Kong. Okay, so we have quite an exciting afternoon. We want to zero in on the critical role of TVET in promoting inclusivity and sustainability, and how the integration of digital and green skills within vocational training can effectively address both existing and prospective labor market requirements. The previous session earlier said that preparing for a not so gentle labor market in the future. So let's see if that actually is something that we're preparing for. Okay, so let's start with the Regional Youth Employment Advisor of Asia from Save the Children, Mr. Ubaidur Rahman.
Thank you very much. This is a case, you can say that this is a case that Save the Children has built over the period of time. It's called Fostering Youth-Led Green Innovation Labs, a force for climate action and social changes. This is the case I'm going to present with you, and definitely it's a small group. We'll get more chance to interact. If you have any questions, that would be fantastic. So if look at what is the background of setting up a green innovation lab, and the fundamental point here is when we are saying green innovation lab, it's also youth-led green innovation lab. So if we look at the background, there are two important points. What is the present deficit? And second one is what is the Save the Children's preparedness to address the deficit? So what we have found that lack of recognition and inclusion of young people as an economic sustainable change agent. That means whenever we talk about sustainable change, that comes high-tech, high kind of actions, not really so much about youth as an active agent of sustainable change agent. And we have found that, yes, to promote these sustainable changes, it requires a lot of tools, methods, approaches, and innovation skills that we have been really facing the crisis, and also systematic barriers such as limited access to youth to capital, mentorship, and coaching. So this is the existing deficit, and if we look at the preparedness, we have been running so many children's clubs, adolescents club, youth clubs, so many, more than 110 countries all over the world. And we made methodology and approaches that the Youth-Led Innovation Lab concept has successfully tested in different part of the world. And the youth club, youth organizations, how that can be as an hub of innovation, not only learn and fun, but also creating the innovative mindset and how these clubs can be a hub of innovation and how this concept can be further expanded over the period of time. So based on this background, we made an objective. Objective is to empower the deprived youth. When it comes to the sustainable development, it's very important that how the deprived youth, more marginalized youth as a center of innovation to create, innovate sustainable solutions is very important. Sustainable solutions is also very much a link with economic, social, and political dimension. So we have also put how to support youth with tools and methods, engaging with different actors, especially private sectors, education institutions, government, and also create green employment, business opportunity by connecting with the deprived youth and with the private sector. This is the objective we try to develop through the Youth-Led Green Innovation Lab. So why Innovation Lab? This is really fundamental question. That's why we need the Youth-Led Innovation Lab. So one very important point is focusing youth is often overlooked by mainstream innovation initiatives because we value practical knowledge and imagination over technical knowledge. This is very important. We value practical, means experiential learning, practical knowledge. Imagination, power of imagination is really important. And we want to promote a gender equality and justice. Youth Innovation Lab, local environmental issues by supporting youth dreams. And localization is the key. It means local actions, local partners, engaging with community is really important to promote the bottom-up approaches. So a lot of talks at the global level requires to connect the local to global. That's the fundamental point of why we promote Youth-Led Innovation Lab. There are three important aspects of our innovation lab. First is called is engagement. In the last session, there was a very interesting point when we talk neither in education nor in employment and training youth. Local actions support youth to engage with the issues that are so fundamental. So innovation is not only about putting the youth in a boot camp and telling them come up with some solution. Required to engage, facilitate youth to engage in the local issues. So this is why we start with engagement phase that includes readiness assessment, like what is my present readiness, and orienting innovation landscape and innovation focuses, and team. This is fundamental that how youth are working in a team and building their own team charter and facilitate the innovations in a way that the sustainable solution may come. And this after the engagement steps, so we put them into takeoff stages. Takeoff stage, you can see whole design thinking methodologies here. Problem identification, selecting the best idea, prototyping, testing, and implementation and pitching. You can see in each of the stages, youth need to work in a team, 4 to 5 youth in a team, and then they frame the problem statement, and then they need to come to the second step. It's called selecting the best idea. And before coming that, they need to come to a gatekeeper. Gatekeeper need to test that whether this is a perfect or not, and then moving to prototyping, then testing and implementation. So we provide the tools, we provide the facilitators, but youth team need to work with a team. And this is also competition. 6 or 7 teams so are competing each other, and they are also using the tools. So one is the education element, another is the competition element. So we try to say that how the education elements and the competition elements can also work together. One of our fundamental point is if youth are not in a pressure, the innovation will not happen. So how to put a youth in a situation they can compete, they can learn, and they can also come up with some sustainable solutions that they have been really facing the problem. So you can see we have a lot of tools. So you can see that every stages they need to move forward. Some teams can move forward, some team cannot go. That create a lot of tension, and tension generates also innovation. So it's a, let's say, 3 to 5 days boot camp. Engagement phase, it takes 15 to 20 days, and then take-off stage of 3 to 5 days boot camp. So we have seen that after 3.5 days, they produce some sort of solutions of their problem, and they are pitching, they are just sharing into marketplace and pitching in front of the judges. In this way, when the idea is being selected by the judges, they need to roll it out. This is called implementation. So implementation, we also support them a lot of tools. That means they need to know what the capacity they have, what sort of capacity they need to explore over the period of time. So we provide them tools, so we provide them method, we provide them also mentors and coaches in between the different stages of the innovation lab. So we have more than 100 green solution catalog that's are being produced by the youth, and some of the solutions are very much tested and implemented and create a lot of social impact and environmental impact, economic impact. What are the lessons that we learn is very key. So this is definitely, we are not undermining the technology, but it's very important having the innovation mindset and passion is the key. Having the mindset is the key, and also passion for changes. We call it that if you are not passionate, if you are not burning for changes, so this change will not happen. So whatever the opportunity you can give, it will not be capitalized if someone is not passionate, if someone is not dedicated, motivated. So changes happen when you are really passionate. We have seen so many cases that youth, when they put their thoughts that I have been experiencing this kind of difficulties, I need to have, that difficulties need to be changed. They become really have empathy and buy-in about the problem and the solution they need to have, then actually it happened. So this is really important. Innovation only happen when there is a clear green mindset and also passion for changes. This is a really process-driven methodology. So process, when we say green, we say 3 things. It can be green process, it can be green product, it can be green services. So any solution, any kind of process, that means if the process is not green, the solution cannot green. Same way, if the product need to be green, process and services need to be green as well. So it's a process-driven methodology, and it's not just training about the innovation, but rather a process to unleash the power of youth through a intensive facilitation process. We have a guideline, we have a tool, but we don't tell them that this is a training. Like if you want to be a poem, and if you participate in a training course of writing poetry, will you be, it's not possible. So this is very important, that how to unleashing the power of a youth through intensive facilitation is the key. So we have a trained facilitator who help the youth to get the things, to get some sort of tips that what to do, what not to do. But this is the youth, they need to move it forward. So it's the facilitation is the key for the success of the innovation lab. Starting with engaging local youth in the community, and with the local entrepreneur as a trainer, mentors, accelerate the youth-led innovation process. So whenever we say, this is very important, that bringing the local youth, local successful mentors, local coaches in the innovation process, and starting with them at the very beginning of the innovation lab is the key, That means the mentors, coaches, if this is very interesting when you talk to youth, who is your role model, who is your local role model, and that why he is a role model. So connecting them with the local youth, the local mentors, local issues, this is so fundamental to come up with some sort of solution. And we have seen that partnership with different sectors, associations, financial institutions are more value when established prior to the lab rather than during the process. This is really, we call it intelligent partnerships. That means how to capitalize the power of different entities and putting them in coming up with some sort of solutions. So the private sector, what they can do, maybe at an educational institution cannot do, or education institution, what they can do, maybe financial institution cannot do. So how to bring the different actors together to build the things together is the key. And we have seen so many successes. I would like to underscore here the power of mobilization is so powerful that the very beginning when you were just bringing different actors together and also mobilizing their capacity for the sake of innovation, for the innovation purposes, then it's become very meaningful. So this is really important that how we are making the things. What we are saying here, it's very important to mention that the key lessons that we learned and the approaches, the methodologies we have developed, we have been trying to build in a more kind of comprehensive kind of a strategy how it can move forward. So some recommendation I would like to just put as a part of the thoughts. As the first recommendation is the investing skills for innovation for the most deprived needy youth can break the intergenerational cycle of poverty and inequality. Definitely, when you look at the innovation, that is which countries are more innovative, you can see the developed countries, they are investing so much on innovation, and innovation is also a matter of skill. So it's very important that how you are investing skills for innovation is the key for making any kind of changes. So here I would like to underscore that it's a matter of investment. If you look at the global ranking of innovative countries, you can see that in the developed, underdeveloped countries, the ranking is the lower tier of this ranking. Because, and this is also creating some sort of inequality and some sort of a trap of poverty. So it's very important that investment skills for innovation is the key. And when we say skills for innovation, it means that definitely how to connect, how to support them, youth to be motivated, self-motivated, creative, and looking for different kind of problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills, and how to work in a team. That is really the key. So investment is the key. And definitely we have seen that the participatory and experiential learning and real-life practices connecting youth with the real-life world of work is the key. So it's not only about training, it's mainly about putting a youth in the experiential learning cycle and bringing the experiential learning points into the discussion, and also helping them to be connected with the real life world of work. This is the key. I would like to say one thing that when we have a different kind of innovation facilitation experiences, I have seen the experiential learning is so fundamental in building the problem statement. Because you will not get it from the theoretical knowledge. So this is the key, that how you are bringing experiential learning and real life practices for connecting youth with the real world of work. And definitely supporting grassroots level innovation with the policy incentives. That means it's so fundamental that if the grassroots level, let me give an example. On a very conservative part of Bangladesh, girls made a biodegradable sanitary napkin. And maybe for you, maybe many people may say this is not really innovation. But look at the context. In a very conservative part, there is no girls can say openly in such a situation when girl make a biodegradable napkin, and when she told us that she had very kind of bitter experience. So from there she made really the biodegradable napkin. So my point here is that it need to be incentivized. Local innovation, if it is not incentivized, now she call herself as an entrepreneur, not call it as a out of school youth. So this is identity also change. So how to support youth to change their identity as an entrepreneur, as an innovator is the key. Harnessing the power of multi-stakeholder through youth-led innovation approaches and methodology. What I said, that is how to bring in the different, this is also the morning session called about partnerships. We cannot do by ourselves everything. We need to build the partnerships, and partnership needs to be started at the very grassroots level also, at the operational level. So harnessing the power of multi-stakeholder partnerships through intelligence kind of partnership arrangement can make the things better. Connecting a youth session with the different sources of funding, funding streams and support networks. Many ideas actually die because of innovative ideas, but they are not connected with what are the different sources of funding. Especially I'm talking about the deprived youth. And so this is why it's important that connecting them with what are the present different kind of sources of funding and how to apply it, how to capitalize that. So this is really important that is with finance, with the kind of market opportunity, with the different kind of other facilities can make the things better. So what I want to say here, Youth-Led Green Innovation Lab, this is a process-driven youth-led innovation methodology, and we have been implementing in different countries. We have seen so many successes. We have seen the identity of the youth is being changed. We have seen that the youth are entrepreneurs are now becoming the mentors of so many other youth. So this is an important part that I'm a successful entrepreneur is not enough as long as I'm paying back to the society. So it's a collectiveness is really the key. So we have seen so many youth that they are also becoming facilitators, mentors, and supporting other youths. It's a very collective journey together. So this is really the togetherness is the key, and having that kind of mindset that I'm a successful person and this is my responsibility to pay back. So I think this is the really new kind of a way of thinking, collectiveness, partnerships, paying back to the society is the key to the success of Youth-Led Innovation Lab. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obaidor. Okay, 3 things that I got from your presentation. I'll summarize it in 3 letters. Yes. Why? Why? Not why, but why. The letter Y. Youth as change agents. We treat them as equals. We don't just put them in a boot camp, but see the project through. E. Engage local communities. Engage in local issues. Engage mentors in the community. That's really, really important to role model. And S. Start with a green mindset. When you have that mindset, and I'm excited to the other presentations as well, and really drilling down on what is green mindset. We have to be very intentional in terms of doing programs or implementing programs and policies that promote green skills and digital skills. So yes to that. And for our participants online, please do give us your questions online so that we can ask and maximize the expertise and experience of our panelists, especially also here in our in-person participants. Later, let's have a lively discussion. So now let's proceed to our next speaker to discuss on the tri-sector awareness-based system transformation for lifelong learning and a sustainable future, may I call on Mr. Estraudin, the Director of Partnerships of the THK Forum, Partnership and Policy Lab at the United in Diversity or UID Foundation.
Yeah, thank you, Emil, for very energetic introductions, and I think it's a good it's a good bridging to the last session today. So I believe last session is very critical. I hope everyone is still awake, hanging there. It's another hour before we wrap up today. So I'm from United in Diversity Foundations, based myself all of Indonesia. A little bit about the backgrounds about our foundations. Basically, we work across initiative in many streams, and one of our flagship program is on learning and capacity building, specifically for leaders across sectors in government, private sectors, civil society organization, and also youth. We also have a bunch of other program and initiatives that trying to be the hubs and connect people and stakeholders within the ecosystems in many industry and many sectors in climate adaptations, social educations, and TVET, one of the initiative. And we've been around for 20 years, and currently we have like around 1,300 fellows and alumni across Indonesia and Asia Pacific that already been through our process, our journey, and our training in various of programs. We also just launched a hub for ecosystem hubs and innovations in Bali in 2022. We've organized many training and workshops for various stakeholders in that campus. So we welcome everyone to visit our campus in Bali anytime. Just let me know. I'll give a little bit of backgrounds why perhaps digital transformations and perhaps green skill is very much relevant to Indonesia, especially. Indonesian government are quite serious in trying to transform, doing a digital transformation across industry and across sectors, especially in the ministry. So a lot of like changes gonna happen in the many ministry like education, health, and others. So with things that it needs to align between the policy and also the visions of the government. That's why we are talking about this alignment of the stakeholders. Otherwise, it's very difficult to talk about the same visions without this alignment. And at the same time, also this open a lot of opportunities for our youth to grab these, potential opportunities of jobs in the futures with this change of policies and regulations. In the green sectors, government making a lot of commitments for a more green or sustainable future in many industry. One of them that government are really serious about is in energy transition. So imagine it's going to be like a lot of shifting in energy sectors at the moment, where Indonesian government, in Indonesia in general, currently only like 17% of renewable energy, but perhaps in the next couple of years that number is going to increase quite significantly. And if we think about that, a lot of things need to adjust from the current workforce that we have, the current policies that we have, the current way of work that we have. It needs a lot of adjustment. Perhaps this is what I think this is very interesting table on why we operate the way we operate now at Unity and Diversity Foundation. Just a little bit of context, if you take a look on the operating system that the world are currently operating, there's a 1.0 operating system where in learning and education, it's very traditional teacher-centric, and then 2.0 is a testing and rote learning. 3.0, perhaps a couple of years back, it's more a learner-centric, student-centric, or a learner-centric, and then actually right now we are in the 4.0, where it's more like a generative and ecosystem-centric, where education mostly focusing on the whole person, the whole system, and learning and education for human flourishing. And these changes, it's actually happening across sectors. In health, that are more focusing on traditional doctor-centric to right now strengthening the source of well-being. in perhaps traditional farming that are more focusing on industrial agriculture, now focusing on regenerative agriculture. In also traditional governments and for example, more like a productivity-centric or market-driven. And now we're talking about a lot of like new terms like just transition, you know, energy enablers, and happy. We like to use happy terms, happy and equitable future. So there's a major shift in the way we operate in the world in many industry and many sectors. That's why we think that adjusting our approach to do things is something that's very important. That's why we use this approach. And a little bit of other background as well. In many industry and many, like we talk about educations, this actually the common problems that we face at the moment, where when we talk about something, conversations always normative, and it ended up with debate, where we wanted to have a more authentic and generative dialogue. In organization, it's more like a centralized and silos within ministry and stakeholders and private sectors and civil society organization. And we want to have more distributed and networked and participatory development. And a lot of other shifting that we wanted to see in our society and our ecosystem. Like in learning and problem solving, they are more focusing on technical and symptomatic and to the holistic and transformational. So this is actually the fundamental aspect of why we operate, and all of the program that we are doing based on this foundation. So we have a few programs. This is a few programs that we are currently working in many sectors. Perhaps I'll give a little bit of example as well. This is our theoretical framework that we are doing. When we talk about the process, when Baidur Rahman telling about the step of the programs that they are doing, we are using, because we are using U theory or theory U. So our process is basically co-initiating and co-sensing, co-presensing, co-prototyping. Basically, it's going through the U process, where we're trying to invite participants to understand what's happening in their system, and then reflect back to their life and their personal mission within the system, and then trying to come up with the new ideas on how to solve the problems within that ecosystem. A few of our approach, we use authentic action learning projects. So at the end of the project, a program participant will have action learning programs that they work with the colleague within the team. And usually our program lasts for 6 to 9 months, and it's a long journey. And participants mostly like people who have leverage in the system, who have power to change the policy and have the power to basically do shifting in their institution and then in their ecosystem. And we also use the whole system convening, meaning when we talk about one project, like for example on employment system transformation, we invite people from the Ministry of Manpower, from labor unions, and then private sectors who has like more than 100,000 employees. So it's a whole system convening, because if you want to talk about one issue, you need to involve all of those actors. Otherwise, it's very difficult to leverage and shift and make the changes. And the stakeholder alignment, of course, because a lot of the issues are very complicated. A lot of time, those between stakeholders, they are not talk to each other. They're not willing to open, and they're not willing to basically find the right solution. So it needs to have the aspect of stakeholder alignment. And it's a capacity building. Basically, we help give and transform them the necessary skills, not only technical skills, but also soft skills. They are really important, like leadership skills, listening skill, for example, and even meditations as well. We use a lot because we use awareness system based, so that's why it's involved a lot of meditations and also tools that are able for them to see the problems using empathy and also reflective approach. And it's a collective learning, collective leaderships, and also it's contribute to all of what we are doing, contribute to the successful of fostering the sustainable development goals of SDGs. Yeah, before I jump into the case studies of the projects that we're working on, the few outcomes that we're been producing in the last couple of years, maybe I'll give an example of one of the projects that we're working on, help reduce stunting or malnutrition for the kids by 50% in one of the regency in West Java. And right now, using big data application, so basically using the technological approach, and the projects has been piloted in the other 50 regions or cities across Indonesia and endorsed by the President Jokowi. And the other example of the projects of the programs, one of our participants produced a community-led restorations of 62 hectares of degraded mangrove and creations of sustainable communities livelihood in West Papua. And a few other outcome and outputs that are produced by the process of 6 to 9 months that I mentioned earlier. This is one of our project called Happy Digital X. X stands for Cities, System, Product, and Services. As I mentioned, we love to use happy because at the end of the day, whatever we are doing, if not for the happier society, happier communities, is basically not so much important, right? That's why we always use the terms we love to use the term of happy. So basically, this program we teach the participants about mostly on digital transformations, a lot of technical issues on how to build a good product and services for policymakers, as well as the business sectors as well, and people who work in community level. And basically, this project we collaborate with Tsinghua University because we're working closely with Tsinghua universities as well in Bali, where we had a center with Tsinghua. And it's a 6-month programs. It's very interesting combinations of technical and also soft skill. And then at the end of the programs, the participants that from government and business and those civil society will produce a few initiative, and a few of the products that have been result from this program. One of them is strengthen the electronic-based government system with that data-driven decision making, and this one is also very interesting where. Right now, if you talk about like capacity building for government, it's very important because usually like the capacity building for government is something that are overlooking, right? And no one gonna tap in that. But actually, it's very powerful. Government has a lot of power because they're the one who doing the policy, and they're the one who like decide whatever future that we have. So that's why we really think that government is the main stakeholders that we need to engage in the training, especially when we talk about capacity building for adult. And a few other programs like city digitalizations. We develop e-government for government in Denpasar in Bali. Also sustainable farming application. We work with one of the universities to develop the technology to help farmers, fishermen, farmers to simplifying and help them with their productivities and profitability. Yeah, that's one of the example. The other example, this is very interesting example. I would say a couple years back when we do the program with the Ministry of Manpower, we specifically working on employment systems transformation. And I remember when first we doing this training, like people from labor association will like talk to the government very harshly, and they're not talking like they complain, and debate is always happen almost every day in our first month of the training. But the process that we encourage is to have more listening capacity and listening ability, as well as put empathy in the way we do things, right? That's why it involves meditations, it involves like a lot of like generative dialogues throughout the process, as well as the prototyping process and ideations where they come up with the something that are crucial. And one of the, I think the most rewarding outcome of these programs at that time was Indonesia launched the first health insurance for gig workers, for Gojek drivers, which is at that time we don't have the formal product for that. But then these programs help the Ministry of Manpower discuss with the Gojek, because one of the participants from Gojek, which is a unicorn companies that run the ride-hailing applications, and also with BPJS. BPJS is the healthcare system in Indonesia. And then they come up with this idea, which back then very innovative and pretty much solve the issues that currently the Gojek drivers are experiencing. So that's one of the other example. And the other example is Happy Energy Action Leadership, or HEAL. This one is specifically on energy transition. So as I mentioned with the JETP, Just Energy Transition Partnership, there's a plan for the government to do early retirement of coal, right? And then one of the narrative that being overlooked is basically a transition of the people who work in the coal mining productions. And it's a lot of people there. Maybe millions of people will be affected if they early retirement of coal. So at the end of the day, when we talk about this sustainability and renewable and stuff like that, we also need to think about the human aspect of it. Perhaps like the human-centered transitions, the terms that we use. And this HEAL project is trying to bring up that narrative, not only to give to bring that narrative to participants in our program, but also to the government and publics in general, that if you want to talk about transition, not merely talking about the target of reducing the carbon emission, but at the same time also talking about the livelihood of the communities who work in that particular industry that will be heavily affected. And the other narrative that we also bring into the table is basically trying to adjusting the educational output of the TVET educations in Indonesia in energy sectors, because at the moment we don't a lot of like technical vocational school, they don't have something that are in the renewable energy sectors. That's what we like to advocate through this program, through a lot of generative dialogues and stakeholder alignment to basically ask and advocate for Ministry of Manpower and Education shift their policy, and perhaps more of like vocational schools in the renewable energy sectors will be built in Indonesia. And this is the design structure. I skipped that. And the other one, this one is specifically for youth and indigenous leaders across Indonesia, called Bekal Pemimpin. Bekal Pemimpin simply means together we guard and steward the nature. So these programs train indigenous leaders across Indonesia, because when we talk about like green and sustainable, blah, 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 we often come with our modern terms and modern knowledge without realizing is that a lot of local wisdom and indigenous leaders has been living there for generation, and that are very interesting conversations to bring. That's why this program is specifically targeting the youth and indigenous leaders community across Indonesia. We run a third cohort of this program. Currently, we have 171 young leaders, young indigenous leaders across Indonesia provinces. The idea is to bring this local wisdom and indigenous leader to the narrative of Indonesian sustainability conversation. And we also have the program for young people, Youth Action Forum. This is train young people as well for this soft skill. But the young people that we invited to our training is always someone who like have leverage with their system and their community. So it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about their individual knowledge, but it's also about how they can contribute and bring that knowledge to the betterment of the actions that they are doing within their communities. Yeah, this is the knowledge structure for the Youth Action Forum. So basically, we working on a few sectors: circular economy, inclusive education, climate adaptation, and social movement. And yeah, apart from the capacity building and learning, we also do ecosystem engagement, because it's a 3 sectors and a complex system. So we need like more like stakeholder and convening and engagement. That's why we proudly working with Prakarja. Prakarja is here, and I think they've done really great jobs in this field, and we're working with them in disseminating a lot of like good informations and knowledge and wisdom in this aspect. So larger community could could learn and also could benefit from the work that we are doing, and also the work that Prakarja are doing. Yeah, in the past couple years, and we've proudly working with Prakarja, with Budeni just mentions, like delivering more than 850 green related, digital related courses across Indonesian youth, and also more than 50 green related skills courses for Indonesian youth as well. So that's a little bit about my presentations. It's another ecosystem engagement. We also work in a lot of international conferences to basically talk about the narrative that have been overlooked. This one, we talk about the human centers in energy transition and a few other transitions in digital and also green economy as well. As a conclusions, perhaps I always believe that to solve the complex issues, it's needed complex solutions as well. And alignment of stakeholders, awareness of people who work in the system is very much important. And at the end of the day, we need, as our motto of our foundation, build trust for our common future. Without trust within the stakeholders that work in the system, it's very difficult to realize the visions that we're working on. That's all from my presentation, and I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaruddin. Okay, that was a very comprehensive presentation. One thing I realized after hearing your presentation would be that lifelong learning really requires reimagining, rethinking, especially as we shift to a green mindset, especially as we navigate the digital challenges. But also, this reimagination of ideas, this rethinking, requires a platform, and that is what you're doing. A platform where all these ideas come in, where the local communities come in. You see the diversity of the clientele, the stakeholders you are engaging in terms of this brainstorming ideas. At the same time, not just platform, but also government support. I liked how there's policy adoption or program implementation that is supported by the government to some of your projects that you're doing. So that's something that we can take away from your presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go to our third speaker, our third panelist. She will be discussing inclusivity and sustainability via green skills development in TVET. May I call on Dr. Margarita Pavlova, the director of the Univoc Center in Hong Kong and associate professor at the Department of International Education, the Education University of Hong Kong. Dr. Margarita.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. And we also were asked to put one slide about our organization. And yes, this is here. So I'm a director of UNESCO Univoc Center in Hong Kong. And currently we have 233 centers worldwide. And it is in 151 countries. And it affects 2 million teachers and more than 66 million students. So of course, my contribution is small, but you can see the scale. So when we're talking about the Univoc, we are talking about a bigger impact. And as you can see from this slide, we have been working on several particular themes that relates to putting together different stakeholders to implement research and development project. And because we are located at the Education University of Hong Kong, so research is one of our focuses. Then we also organize capacity building training, and that happens now a lot. The current one is going on with Semi-Ovok Tech, and we just did training in Brunei, and next one will be in Indonesia, in Bali. And in Indonesia, it's a great demand, so that means that people are really well synthesized towards the agenda and they want to learn more. And with UNESCO, we did recently one in Iraq, and now thinking about Nepal. With GIZ, we have been discussing also in Asia-Pacific region, so this is a good focus for us. And also today I was going to talk about ethnic minorities and refugees, so we have been doing work on that. And I think it's really important to acknowledge their contribution towards development of sustainable cities, because most of refugees are located in the cities. And you can see our aims that we want to support implementation of sustainable development goals. We want to promote best and innovative practices in TVET. And you can see the examples of several projects that we have recently completed. So our session about sustainable development and green transition, and we all know sustainable development goals, and one big idea is to deal with carbon footprint, yes, so to decarbonize the economies. And so that's why when we're talking about TVET, or vocational education training, we're talking about green transition and green economies. And you can see that green transition is a process of shifting from traditional methods of producing things to more environmentally friendly and sustainable ones. And of course, when we're talking about the green economy or green economy, it results in improved human well-being and social equity, as well as significantly reducing environmental impact. So you can see that we all need to do these small steps so we would be able to achieve a better and greener future. And we already had wonderful examples here during this session. When we're talking about green jobs, I think that by definition, they are decent jobs. So again, as it was mentioned today, when we're talking about industry or employment, there are companies that produce green technologies or green products, but also all companies, they need to implement more environmentally friendly processes. So that is also greening. And decent job, it's a big agenda for ILO, International Labour Organization. So you can see that intersection between these three gives us a definition of green jobs that are decent jobs that also protects the environment. Okay, so a lot of people here are related directly or indirectly to education. And we have our targets under Sustainable Development Goal 4. So many of them are related to access, yes, because we're talking about inclusivity, equality, so access is a big issue. But I think that the last target, 4.7, is the essence of education, yes? This is what we need to do. We need to make sure that every children who are going through our educational system know, understand, and act upon the ideas of sustainable development. So what we want to do is to develop green citizens, yes, that do the right thing at work and at home. What is important to mention that very often when we're doing research, we realize that the level of awareness is very high, but behavior doesn't match the level of awareness, yes? So we know that we need to do right things, but we are not doing them. And so that's why when we're talking about sustainability, any educational programs that relates to sustainability, we need to focus on behavior because we want to change the behavior. Yes, and that behavior means action within the context of sustainable development. And here, again, just the visual representations, how our values and beliefs relates to our actions. And I am just echoing our previous presenter who was talking about the importance of developing mindsets, developing attitudes, developing the positive values towards sustainability. So you can see that the values affect the action and then action affect the values. So it's really important to remember, because very often, at least within the context of TVET, we're talking about skills development, green skills development. But even if we have skills, we might not apply them. So values are important. How we can advance employability and equitable opportunities to support sustainable green transition. So UNESCO developing strategies, yes? So just to provide orientation globally, what do we want to achieve in terms of vocational education and training. And you can see I highlighted the points that relates to greening and that relates to social inclusion. So we have three levels: individual level, level of economy, and level of society. And at each level, these issues or points are really, really important. We are talking about green and digital transition and inclusivity. Uh, Again, when we're talking about greening of economies, it is important to notice that many skills that are required are soft skills. And I just recently came from the First African Forum on Skills Development, and it has been highlighted so many times that soft skills, and when we're talking about greening, in the context of greening, this is what everyone needs. And then we have a number of skills that are specific technical skills. Of course, we shouldn't forget about hard skills, but the importance of soft skills, we shouldn't forget about them. And there are a number of studies that trying to identify what type of green skills we require, and this is a famous one, relatively recent, done by LinkedIn. So they analyzed the advertisement, they analyzed the types of skills that were required through their platform, and you can see that across the globe, corporate services, manufacturing, energy, public administration, and construction are the areas in demand of green skills. And for me, what is important, corporate services and public administration. So that means that soft skills, yes, that we are developing some policies, or we need people who would be able to monitor the greening processes. We have people at the corporate level who are looking at the corporate social responsibility that is also relates to greening. And of course, different countries have a little different emphasis. So for Australia, I picked up its agriculture and design also. So defining green skills, it has been a long saga for some time. Now there is one definition developed by developing agencies, international development agencies, that sort of provides a more or less coherent picture of what we mean by green skills. I also put here my definitions that I established and used a long time ago. And I also did a search on 100 texts about green skills and use AI tools to identify what artificial intelligence is thinking about green skills. So what I want to highlight from my point of view, it's really important to look very broadly. So the skills include knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So skills are not just very narrow understanding of skills, but the broad understanding of skills. Yes, and also that we need to think about different contexts, and these are the skills that reducing environmental impact, but also supporting economic restructuring, and also supporting decent work conditions. And our artificial intelligence also talking about the complexity, and you mentioned already the complexity of issues and how important to see the comprehensive solutions, how to deal with them. So to be able to structure our activities, we developed the typology of green skills that, again, we have been using successfully for many years. And you can see that the foundation, the bottom, is the green mindset and attitude. And we need to develop this across all educational levels, starting from the kindergartens and going through all levels up till the university and lifelong learning. And then we have generic green skills, and this helps students to understand what do we mean by greening, what do we mean by sustainable development. And here we are discussing a number of concepts. You can see circular economy, green technology, sustainable innovation, ecological footprint, etc. So we identified 20 concepts that we use in our training. And then the next level usually relates to greening processes across different industries or introduction of green technologies. So that required some additional skills and understanding that usually can be developed at the workplace, or also can be included into the TVET curriculum, vocational education curriculum. And at the top, you have this specific green skills that relates for the green industry. When we're talking about the renewable energy, when we're talking about waste management or green construction, so these skills will be at this level. And you also, I think it's also important to know that only a very small % of population need these skills. But if we want our community to become green as a whole, we should start at the base level. Okay, holistic approach. This is really, really important. And when we're talking about inclusive green TVET, we need to realize that there are a lot of different pathways that we can follow. Here I bring examples from Como, from Italy, from Finland, where they established programs for legal migrants, and then they put them through the vocational education system. But we know that in many countries we have non-legal migrants, so can we use them as a source to create a greener society and support their well-being as well? So you can see some points why inclusivity is important. And because the whole conference is about that, I wouldn't discuss this topic in detail, but you can see empowerment really is a good point. I think these two ways, and I think the first one was already mentioned today, so we need to think how this green transition affect different categories of people. And again, there are a number of studies have been done that demonstrates that marginalized groups or low-income groups affected more very often compared to the other sectors. So when we're thinking about inclusive green TVET, so we need to think about that group of people. But also the second one is how to have more positive view on these processes and how to empower these marginalized groups so they can contribute towards their societies in a very meaningful way in society, and it would be visible for societies. And I will focus on the second one today. And of course, when we're talking about the holistic approach, it's really important that policies will be in place. And again, today it was mentioned that they are important. And this is ILO done this study. They analyzed the policies. So you can see that in terms of economy, all countries in Southeast Asian, ASEAN countries, they all have policies. In terms of skills, not all of them. And you see, if we want to implement something, if we want to achieve change, really we need to focus on the policies at the level of skills. Greening vocational education at the institutional level, I really believe that when we want to change the attitudes and develop green mindset, we need this holistic approach. And you can see that we have green culture, we have green campus, green curriculum, green research, and also greening workplace and working with communities. And today we heard wonderful examples of how to work with communities. And now, this is a green guide developed by UNESCO. Now it is a new version in the pipeline, will be printed hopefully this year. So that has, I think, a big input for many institutions around the globe. So transformative learning for greening. Yes, I just want to highlight that we are focusing on the bottom foundational 2 levels when we are doing this. And here there is no time to talk about these genetic green skills in more details. It's a very interesting topic and the composition of these skills. But here I want to highlight that we can develop them through specific modules. We can include activities into our current programs, and also it can be done through work-based training. As I said, as a foundation for our training and development projects, we identified 21 concepts under 10 Sustainable Development Goals. And then we developed resources that we are using and put some of them on the website. So you can see that we have these concepts, and then we have the examples or case studies from the industries. And we selected 10 industries. And why is it important? Because today, again, it was mentioned real-life context. And when we're talking about formal TVET, very often opportunity to go outside for practice, to observe green practice is very limited. And so in these resources, we developed it in the context of Hong Kong. So we are trying to bring examples from Hong Kong, but also international examples. So the students would be able to see how things have been done in reality in different contexts. And because we have been talking about student-centered pedagogy or activities that are centered on the students, we have 3 types of resources. One is the description of the concept of the case study. The second one is the worksheet for the students, so they know what do they need to do. And basically, It's project-based learning, very often, or activities-based learning, and then teacher guidelines that help teachers to implement these classes. So green digitalization, it is very important, so I just briefly mentioned that so we wouldn't forget about this. It's getting very, very close one to another, and you can see examples of ICT and circular economy here, or greener society, or how green ICT can benefit individuals. And there are some examples that I would be happy to share, but time is running out, so maybe during the question session I can do that. Okay, now we're going back, not back to the project that I wanted to share with you, and that relates to ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. And recently the number of them has been growing in our city, and also a number of research showed that the inadequate policies, inadequate living, working, educational experiences, and that they are working only in the elementary occupations that can be mostly affected by this green transition. And here you can see that roughly 25% their unemployment is higher compared to the other population in Hong Kong, and usually they're low-skilled, manual, labor-intensive industries, so they don't have equitable access for green jobs. And this is one of our projects when we worked with ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, and the purpose was to establish social green enterprise. So approach is very, very similar to yours. And you can see that the first one, we developed the generic green skills, and the second focus was develop the entrepreneurial competencies. So it is 5-week engagement for them. At the beginning, we focused on consumption, and there are a lot of activities that helps them to understand what do we mean by that, how to read labels. And at every engagement, we have workshops that helps them to see how to transform waste into the product. And waste management is a very big issue in Hong Kong, so government putting a lot of initiatives in this space. And you can see, so the first week we were making body and face scrap from leftover coffee. Second week we focused on waste management, and it was recycling soap, recycling cooking oil to make candles. And then week 3 was closed loop economy. We're making vases, toys from leftover fabrics. And then the last 2 weeks were focused on entrepreneurship. And we have a mentor who is the leader of the African Center in Hong Kong. So he was like a live example of what it is possible to achieve in terms of entrepreneurship. So that was our mobilization posters, because we realized that it is not so easy to mobilize people. And then through the project, we understand why, because they're so busy with their lives, and that, but at the end, everyone has a very nice experience. We produce different products. This is just examples how we ask them to reflect on different things. And here, their level of environmental awareness. So my time is running out very quickly. Level of environmental awareness, so they're going 5 levels down to understand, and then trying to think what it is possible to do with the cause of this event. Then this is the example of the closed loop economy activity. We looked at the dream farm, and then we asked them to apply this thinking and to design a house, yes, in the in suburbia. And that was also good learning. This is a business canvas that they start filling in, and then we had mentors, and as a result, 3 companies has been sort of conceptualized, and one relates to producing candles from the used oil for the Indian community, because they have a lot of festivals that require lights. So they said that will be a good business and good recycling opportunity, waste management opportunity. This one are the mission for the ideas for sustainable enterprises that they designed. And you can see promote equal opportunities to learn digital skills for underserved communities. So they realize themselves that digital is very important for them and that we need to develop these skills. So a number of points that we identified from this project that we need to focus, of course, on formal and non-formal TVET, and non-formal TVET can reach these marginalized communities, so that we need to raise awareness, applied skills at home, and then also they have a potential to income generation. And also we developed green citizens, and as I said, 3 companies are in the pipeline. And this is a similar project we had with refugees and their kids, and that was an empowering exercise for them, because they said it has a positive well-being on them, because in Hong Kong they're not able to work, they're not able to study while their applications is under the processes, so everything going back to the government policies. But engagement in our workshops bring them a lot of joy, and they also learned what they can do at home, even not to establish their social enterprise. So this is the last slide with recommendations. I think that to achieve green transformation, all community groups should be included in training, and also particularly focus should be given to marginalized groups because they have less opportunities, and also they're more vulnerable for this green transition. So very important to have a holistic approach for greening TVET, so we can achieve change in their values and mindsets. And it is also important to learn about green technologies, because when we are, but it is not enough. We need to develop this broader understanding of what do we mean by sustainable development and green transition. I think that we all need to include in our programs development of these generic green skills, and also apply this lifelong approach that will allow the development of green mindsets. Yes, as well as develop capacity of teachers and NGO leaders. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Margarita, for that very comprehensive presentation once again. So many points were raised, but I think the most important point for me would be the face scrub and the body scrub made out of coffee. just kidding. Kidding aside, I'm just checking if everyone's still here. But kidding aside, as mentioned by Dr. Margarita, it's a complex, we have complex challenges, especially in transitioning to green skills, to the green mindset. But it all starts with the mindset. It always goes back to that. That's why earlier I asked you, and I think we have more people now, if you are intentional in buying products in the grocery that cause less harm in the environment, because it all starts from there, being intentional, being mindful of what we are buying. Because if we have that mindset with us, then it's easier for us to reimagine. It's easier for us to pivot and relearn and unlearn the things that we now do towards green skills. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes for question and answer portion. So thank you very much. A round of applause once again to our experts. I'll ask the floor. If you have any questions, please do engage our panelists. Yes, sir. Kindly introduce yourself and your organization.
Thank you. My name is Romora from Prakerja Indonesia. It's a very interesting session about green skills. It reminds me to a paper, a study by NUS in 2023. They said that there is a substantial say, do, and act gap between companies in Southeast Asia in terms of sustainability practice. Like 85% of companies say that they will have a sustainable practice, but only 45% actually do have a concrete initiative. And even lower, a quarter or only 25% actually institutionalize sustainable practice in their reports. So the expression of interest is there, but the practice is not there. What do you, gentlemen and gentlewomen, think about it? Yeah.
Let's start with Dean.
Thank you for the questions. Maybe I would like to answer my questions with the one sentence I really like. I forgot who said this, but it says, don't be perfect, be the enemy of good. So I think whatever that the companies or like private sectors are doing at the moment, I think there's an initiative. So we have to acknowledge that it is a good initiative, even though not perfect, right? So that's the fundamental aspect I think I would like to acknowledge. And the second one is it needs perhaps more like support from other ecosystem as well. So like government incentive need to be there to support. And then the other one is, I think, collaboration with civil society groups. Actually company, they have money, right? But usually they don't have like a necessary technical skills to kind of like go out there and then do their initiative. So it has to establish more engagement with the civil society groups so that they can help. I think there's a problem is something that it's a dynamic that we need to solve. Same globally, if you take a look at COP conversations, in the blue zone, the investors and private sectors always say, hey, we have the money, but we don't have the project. But in the green zone, a lot of initiative, but they don't have the money. And then the green zone cannot go to the blue zone. So that's I think the current realities that we face. And I think this case also like that. Maybe the other panelists will add, but in my point, I contribute to conversation. First, always remembers that don't be perfect, be enemy of good. And second one is it needs to be like help and contribution from other stakeholders as well, and alignment with these stakeholders, so it can flourish. And it's not easy to transform a big or like to basically make maneuvers of the big perhaps like big vehicles, right? So it slowly but sure. I hope it's sure. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, this is very fundamental. It starts with conscious consumerism, like demand for green goods and services and behavior. So when we say green mindset, we say three things. The first is the eco-literacy. Second one is green civic activism, like individual and collective activism, that when there is any kind of wrong, you are also protesting. The power of protest is so crucial. And third is that how we are practicing in our personal and professional life. So for me, this is very simple. The demand for green is still very low. If it is a very top-down, it will not. The demand side of the governance is the key for making it happen.
Yes, again, the situation is very complex. So as I know, the government input or government strategies or regulations are super important. And we had a project in Hong Kong with a number of industries, and some of them, they had the production line in China. Most of them have a production line in China. And they said this is a totally different operation within China and Hong Kong, because this woman I interviewed, she said in China, the government said you need to decrease your electricity consumption, let's say by 5% over 3 months. And she said if you wouldn't do that, you will just get electricity for 5 days instead of 7 days. In Hong Kong, of course, nothing like that. The government is trying to give you incentives, a lot of awards. If you are building a green building, you have slightly more territory. So different ways the government can stimulate the greening of industry, but usually this is the bigger companies. When we interviewed small and medium enterprises, they said we only implement government regulations. We can't do initiatives on ourselves because we don't have resources. But of course, if something saves money for them, then they do that. For example, many of restaurants, they changed their ovens to the one that consumes less electricity. So they did it for their profit, but the side effect is like greening effect. And also stock market, yes. In Hong Kong, every companies that are registered there, they need to produce a governance sustainability report. So many of them, they work with the supply chain, and they said that should be green. Yes, if you are sending goods to Europe, you need to demonstrate that your supply chain is green, and there are a lot of criteria that should be met. Also at the level of universities, institutions, companies, procurement. So if you are focusing on green goods, then, as you said, the companies will produce green goods because it would be a demand. So there are a lot of multiple ways how the things can be done. Another one, we did a project that focused on collaboration between industries and TVET, and that was the hotel industry. And they said, okay, we want to become greener. We are not sure what we can do. Can you help us? And so we came up with a model, and so they start collaborating with each other, and then they try to make the operational practices greener.
Thank you. Once again, complex challenges, different approaches. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I always remember this during my ministry days in the Philippines. We always say this: there's no one silver bullet policy that answers everything. We have to have many bullets, which is not a bad metaphor, but yeah, we need different bullets and different attacks in how we addresses the problem. Okay, anyone else in the audience for let's maximize our time with our experts this morning, this afternoon. Okay, I have the question though from the online participants. So as we all know, we're being live streamed across the world. So our participants from Africa are actually curious if you have any partnerships, any case studies on the continent of Africa that you can share, or are programs that are being implemented with your partners right now. Our cases that we have shared was from Asia in general. So do you have any partnerships or plans to do so?
Yeah. For our capacity building, for example, we had a partner in Nigeria. So it was one TVET institution, and as a result of that training, they completely redesigned their curriculum, included a lot of greening into their programs. But I think that there are a number of examples that I observed now, because when I was there, they took us to TVET institutions, and one actually private TVET institutions, they built their classrooms from containers. So they said that was their recycling, but also it was cheaper. And then they decorated in a very, very beautiful way. So the campus looks amazing. They have a lot of pieces of art made from recycled materials. And so it's such a great environment for the students to work there. And they have them, they have like a STEM type of lab or innovation lab where they're designing products to meet the real needs of people. And for example, they designed a drone that can monitor what's going on next to the gold mines, so the activities wouldn't damage the environment, because they said it's very difficult for the rangers to go there and observe, but with the drone it's easier to do. So in Africa there are examples, and also it was presentations. I haven't observed that it was presentations from Kenya that they introducing greening there. So there are things happening. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, our first innovation lab was also in Kenya, 5-country, multi-country innovation lab, from where we actually adopted the methodology. The second one was in West Africa, Mali. So it was also called Youth-Led Innovation Lab Plus. So we have been now doing, so we are very much well hooked up with the East Africa, West Africa, South Africa.
Thank you. And as we see, it's global, but at the same time, it's local. So as mentioned by Dr. Margarita, there are local communities that are doing something in Africa that we're also mirroring what we're doing here in Southeast Asia. So that's a good way. So I hope our friends from Africa joining us today are able to learn also from us, from our best practices in Asia. Okay, anyone else from the audience? Okay, Hani?
It's not.
But then online.
Oh, okay. There we go. Oh, that's loud. Thank you so much. It's been a really engaging session, and thank you to all the panelists. Mr. Rahman, I have a question for you. I really like the storyline you introduced around, the different innovation that girl had made around sanitary napkins. Now, at the end, you mentioned something very important, but I think a big challenge we see in development. You mentioned the importance of bringing funding towards community-led initiatives. Now, I've observed, and maybe some in the room would agree, that when it actually comes into funding that in practice, there are many hurdles that donors have to overcome to manage procurement and also to make sure that the different initiatives themselves, one, how do you vet them? There's like a lot of logistical processes. I'd love to hear if you have any lessons you'd like to share with other donors as they enter the space to follow your recommendation.
Interestingly, that's during the engagement phase, when youth move to assessing the problem statement or building problem statement, they do a lot of consultation with private sector. So one of the things we have seen the power of mobilization, starting with engaging with the private sector, also generate a lot of interest from the investors. Like we have seen that is e-waste, youth-led green innovation is e-waste management. They made a platform, and when they engaged with the private sector, some of them said that we want to invest that. So here the key point is that the power of the concept idea is more powerful than the money. So when the investors see that there is a value for investment, it should not be supply driven. That's I have tons of ideas, but no one is interested to invest. The point is how powerful the solution you are making, that the investor will be interested to invest. So this is why the more important point is that how when the youth engage with the different stakeholders, how creatively they can also make the idea in a way that can attract the other investor to invest. So we have seen so many cases that investors, like philanthropic investors, hardcore financial investors, are also interested to invest. So there is a good momentum. Just to tell you about the sanitary napkins idea, she's from a very remote community and very conservative community. So when she engaged with the different private chambers of commerce, business association, she got a very good mentor. And the mentor said, I have a daughter. I would like to celebrate my daughter's first day of ministerial issues in a very big manner. And the girl, her name is Rubina, the innovator, she was invited, and she was the chairperson for this session, something like that. So there are a lot of people who really believe in this concept and see that when the very deprived youth are coming with some bright idea, there is opportunity for investment. So we have seen the power of mobilization for generating resources as well.
So then it's really about giving them the platform.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so one last question. It's more a reflection question, just to wrap up our discussion, and also because we have limited time. So the title of this session is Fostering a More Inclusive TVET System with Digital Skills and Green Skills for Further Education and Lifelong Learning. Quite a mouthful. Okay. But just to wrap up, from your experience, your expertise, in one word, what do you want our participants to take away after this session? Who can start?
If you say one word, I should say green mindset is the starting point.
Okay.
I would say alignment.
Alignment.
I would say holistic approach.
Holistic approach. Okay, 2 words. Anyways, but mindset, alignment, holistic. I hope we take away those terms today before we leave this session. As we go to our respective stations and work, I know you're here because your part of your work would be pivoting to digital skills, pivoting to green skills. But once again, mindset is very important. Mindset, alignment, holistic approach, and I think, and this is the beauty of this conference now, is community. And we are a community that share effective practices, and to be able to build that mindset, we have to band together as a community from different countries, from different organizations, to be able to foster the sustainable and inclusive future. So thank you very much. Once again, a round of applause to our, okay, Ms. Margarita. Okay, one last final thought.
Yeah, can I just add one word?
Yeah.
Because we had the similar exercise during this African forum, and they
Yes.
asked participants, what sort of themes do you think it's really important and we need to discuss?
Yeah.
And there's so many, so you can't see it on the screen, but in the middle it was inclusivity.
Yeah.
So I think that we should add that word
Yeah.
as well from the other part of the world, but I think it's
Yes.
really relevant to Asia
Yes,
also.
exactly. Inclusion, community, and a community is built up of diverse participants. So thank you very much once again. A round of applause to our speakers and panelists. So once again, thank you very much for joining us, and see you again tomorrow. Thank you.